Gris is simply a masterpiece. It is a story of a young girl who encounters tragedy early on. She is then forced to journey through one of the most treacherous aspects of the human experience: grief. The reality we're thrown into at the start of the game is bleak and seemingly lifeless, but as we progress further, each chapter breathes new life and color into the world around us. There are 5 main stages of grief, the first of which is where we begin this story, in denial. Unable to move from the spot she fell to, our protagonist collapses to the ground and weeps. Eventually, you can slowly begin traversing through the barren land that is littered with ruins, collecting fragments that resemble fallen stars and mementos from her past. As we progress further through this new environment, you stumble upon a new color: red, the color of anger, the next step in the grieving process. It splatters across the white background in a way that resembles blood, conveying a message of pain and death. In this stage, the girl learns to become heavy, her dress forming a block that can break through obstacles that impede our path, smashing through cracked floors and the like. There is an interesting section of this chapter where a giant red sandstorm knocks your character back and is accompanied by the crescendo of the music, which is this intense organ playing in the background, acting as the powerful force of her inner emotion. It is one of the first moments for me that really showcased how the game would couple its storytelling with both visuals and music. By utilizing her heavy form, we are able to push our way through the unrelenting winds, and eventually, you find your way down into a room filled with statues of the woman from the beginning. You can use heavy to crush these statues, breaking them to reveal the girl's true underlying anger. This newfound strength is not always so destructive though, proving that there are other ways to be strong in the face of hardship. Before we continue any further, I wanted to say a big thank you to all of you who have subscribed to the channel. We just hit over 1,200 subscribers, and I am forever grateful for your continued support. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so right now. Thanks. We then find this intricate windmill and use her heavy ability to work our way up to the top of it, lifting her high above the ground and unlocking the next color: green. This chapter is represented by bargaining, the next stage of the grieving process. The world is now resembling more of a forest, and personally, this is the first moment I stopped in awe of the gorgeous artwork that is Gris. The world for the first time comes to life, and you really do feel as though you're traveling through a deep forest, the sunlight peeking in ever so gently. The platforming in this location is a lot more challenging than the previous two, and we even meet a new forest friend. Choosing to lend a helping hand by knocking down fruit for him to munch on will gain his trust, and by doing so, he'll show you the way down into his home. A series of underground forest passageways filled with other little forest creatures. I love the design of these little guys. They mimic the geometric world around them with their square and triangular faces and adorable little tiny sounds. This really makes the environment much more immersive and interesting for the player. After finding the number of star fragments needed, we learn a few new skills: floating and soaring, making jumps longer, and also being able to shoot up into the sky whenever there are those red birds flying around. This is the first time we encounter a true boss in this game. The many flying black silhouettes that have been following us throughout the entirety of the story have now integrated into one giant black bird. It screams and chases you throughout the remnants of a castle-like structure, only being defeated by the sound of bell chimes. The large bell on the highest tower causing it to disperse once again. Visually, this is a gorgeous scene, watching both the girl and the bird soaring up through the vast sky, parallel with one another in a visually harmonious way despite the obvious struggle between the two. Defeating the bird unlocks our next color and the next stage, blue and depression. A breathtaking underwater world is explored after obtaining another skill, dive, which allows us to swim deeper into her emotions. Here we find a statue of the woman from before who appears to be drowning, which is quite fitting. The underwater world is a much more color-diverse place. For the first time, we see many different colors making up the areas around us. There is also a lot of use of black in this location, which can represent the dark depths of our protagonist's sorrow. Finding the star fragments here is trickier than before, as the area plays with gravity for the first time in a fun yet challenging way. Once you've obtained all 6 of the star fragments, a friendly turtle is awakened and actually leads us down even further into the depths, providing us with light and guidance. The boss from the last chapter returns, only this time transforming into a shadowy eel, and another intense chase sequence ensues. Although there is no way to formally die in this game, I still felt nervous and was smashing the spacebar to try and jet away from its jaws. The musical score adds so much to these boss battles. Even though there is no combat, it still feels as though there are high stakes to them. Eventually we outrun the eel and find ourselves at the base of the statue of the woman from before. Making your way up and back into her hand unlocks the final color and final stage of grief. Yellow and acceptance. This area took me the longest to get through. The castle-like structure that was once in ruins is now rebuilt with an added detail, a completely mirrored image of itself, and behind it a giant full moon lighting up the night sky. The color palette of this location is my personal favorite, with the use of warm pinks against cool blues and purples, and then adding a random pop of yellow that surprises you. It is nothing short of breathtaking. We gain our final ability in this area, the thing that she lost in the very beginning of the game, the ability to sing. Singing brings life back into the flowers and other creatures in this area. It's a beautiful touch and makes exploring more interesting. I found myself singing to almost every wall, statue, and flower I came across. You must combine every skill you've learned thus far to traverse not just the area you start in, but also the mirrored one above, which is tricky and can often turn you around very easily. Running, jumping, soaring, and diving while upside down does prove to be a bit more challenging than anything else we've faced thus far. I absolutely loved this part. The game started off so bleak and empty with very little to interact with, but now you get to explore the same world, only this time it's full of beautiful color and light from the full moon backdrop. It tells a story of a journey through emotions, from the emptiness of initial loss to the deep dark sorrows of depression, finally to all of the wonderful colors of life and joy returning to the world. There is only one final thing left that stands in your way. The shadowy boss from before, which reveals itself to be the girl herself. It translates so elegantly the reality that sometimes the thing that blocks us from healing and moving forward is in fact ourselves. Allowing ourselves to be swallowed up by our sadness and inability to cope with our pain, our loss, our grief only puts out the light from within. The only thing that stops this from happening is the love she and the woman from before once shared, which brings her voice back and saves the girl from losing herself as well. A single tear falls from the statue's eye, and a kiss from the girl is their final goodbye. The girl making her way across the star's completed constellation and into the unknown of the future. As an added little bonus, when you collect all of the mementos scattered throughout the game, you actually are rewarded with a short cutscene of the woman and the girl. It seemingly takes place before the events of the game, since the achievement is called Childhood, and it reveals their relationship as a loving mother and daughter. The story of Gris is the heartbreaking tale of a daughter finding her own path through life while experiencing the pain of loss. As I said before, Gris is a masterpiece. Berlinist made a soundtrack that perfectly relayed the feelings of the protagonist and told a story without any words. The art and world building in this game is next level. It is both emotional and fun to engage with. I cannot recommend this simple yet gorgeous platform adventure game enough, and I hope you all have enjoyed this video. It is a little different from my Elden Ring lore videos, but what can I say? I fell in love with the story Gris told and wanted to share that with all of you. A quick announcement from me: I am on both Twitter and Twitch now, so if you'd like to follow me on either of those platforms, you will be able to find the links in the description of this video down below. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Bye!